Tom had been on the alien world of Varela for only 2 days, and already the place felt like another universe. The sky was a deep silver blue. The air carried a faint sweet smell, and the buildings seemed to grow out of the ground like living trees. He was not a soldier or a politician. He was a linguist. His mission was to help the human delegation communicate with the Varelans during the trade negotiations. Now he stood in the royal hall, facing the queen herself. She sat on a throne, shaped like the petals of a giant flower, tall and elegant. Her skin pale gold under the light filtering through the crystal ceiling. Her crown looked less like metal and more like woven vines, alive and glowing with gentle light. Her eyes watched him with calm patience, though he could feel the weight of her gaze. Tom's heart was already beating fast. His official job was only to translate, but one of the lead human envoys had fallen sick, leaving him to handle the introductions. The queen had invited him forward after hearing he spoke some of their language. This was supposed to be a short, polite greeting. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. The floor under his boots was smooth and warm, made of some kind of polished stone. Alien nobles stood in neat rows along the sides of the hall, their robes shimmering with moving patterns. The silence felt heavy, as if everyone was holding their breath. Tom had practiced the greeting sentence many times. It was supposed to mean, "I honor your people and your wisdom." But Varelan language was tricky. The meaning of a sentence could change entirely with the wrong tone or a misplaced word. He opened his mouth and spoke slowly, trying to sound respectful. The queen's head tilted slightly. The corners of her mouth lifted. Then the hall erupted into whispers. Some nobles gasped. Others looked shocked, their eyes wide. Tom froze. Something was wrong. He looked at Mira, his friend and part-time translator, who stood a few steps behind him. Her eyes were huge, and she mouthed something silently to him. Before he could ask what had happened, the queen stood from her throne. She raised one hand, and the whispers stopped instantly. Her voice was smooth, carrying easily through the hall. She spoke in clear Varelan words, which Tom could only partly understand. Then she switched to the trade language, so even the humans present could hear. "I accept," she said. Tom blinked. "Accept what?" The nobles clapped their hands together in a strange rhythm, a sound that echoed through the chamber. A set of alien musicians began to play a soft, ceremonial tune. Guards stepped forward, their armor gleaming. Tom felt a sudden wave of panic. "Wait, what just happened?" He whispered over his shoulder to Mira. Mira stepped forward quickly, her voice low. "You did not say you honor her people. You said you offer yourself to her in binding alliance." Tom's stomach dropped. "Binding alliance? What does that mean here?" "In Varela," Mira said, looking both impressed and concerned. "Binding alliance to the queen is a proposal, not for a small agreement. It means you are offering to join your life and your nation with hers." Tom stared at her. "So I just proposed to the queen." "Yes," Mira said. "And she accepted in front of her court." Tom turned back toward the queen. She was still smiling faintly, her golden eyes fixed on him as if measuring his reaction. He wanted to explain it was a mistake, but Mira leaned in urgently. "Do not refuse her now," she warned. "If you withdraw in public, it will insult her deeply. It would mean you offered and then called her unworthy. That could be taken as an act of disrespect to all Varelans, and with the trade talks so delicate, that could end very badly for both sides." Tom felt the heat in his face. He swallowed, nodding stiffly. The queen gestured toward him, and he stepped forward again, unsure what to do. She extended her hand, and he placed his own over it, the way he had seen others do in formal greetings. Her skin was warm and smooth, and he felt a strange current run through him as she looked into his eyes. "You have honored me," the queen said in the trade language. "Your courage will be remembered." Courage? Tom was not feeling courageous at all. Inside, his thoughts were spinning. How was he going to explain this to the rest of the human delegation? How would the Earth Council react when they heard one of their translators had just gotten engaged to an alien monarch? The ceremony ended quickly, but not before a group of heralds left the hall, carrying banners with new symbols stitched into them. Mira whispered that those were Alliance banners, and they would be displayed all across the capital by nightfall. As the Queen dismissed the court, she gave Tom a look that was difficult to read. There was no hint of mockery or confusion. Instead, she seemed entirely certain about what had just happened. He wondered if she really believed he had meant it, or if she knew it was an accident but had her own reasons for accepting anyway. Tom was escorted out of the throne room by 2 guards in green and silver armor. Mira walked beside him, her voice low but urgent. "You need to stay calm," she said. "Do not speak about this in front of others until I explain more. Varellan politics are complicated. There may be people who will see this as an opportunity, and there will be others who will see you as a threat." Tom's legs felt heavy. He had only come here to help with communication. Now he was at the center of a political event he barely understood. The city outside the palace was alive with moving strange winged creatures drifting in the sky. Alien merchants calling out to buyers, tall trees with glowing fruits hanging like lanterns. None of it distracted him from the single thought, echoing in his head. He had just proposed to the Queen of Varela, and she had said yes. The moment Tom stepped out of the palace gates, the city seemed different. The sun was lower in the silver blue sky, and the streets were filled with people carrying small banners marked with the Queen's crest. Merchants called his name in broken trade language, smiling and bowing. Even the guards at the market stalls saluted as he passed. Mira walked quickly beside him, her eyes scanning the crowd. "News travels fast here," she said. "By tonight, everyone in Varela will know about the Queen's acceptance." Tom kept his voice low. "And they will think I meant it. They will not think." Mira replied, "They will believe. The Queen's word is final. If she says you made the offer and she accepted, then that is the truth to her people." Tom ran a hand through his hair. "What does that mean for me?" "It means you are no longer only a translator," Mira said. "You are now a figure. In their politics, a symbol of a new human Varellan alliance." They reached the guest residence where the human delegation was staying. The building was tall, with white stone walls and wide balconies. The guards at the door stepped aside respectfully when they saw Tom. Inside, the air was cooler, carrying the scent of fresh herbs. Ambassador Hale, the senior human diplomat, was waiting in the main hall. His face showed no smile as he approached. "Tom," he said, "we need to talk. Now." Tom followed him into a private meeting room. The walls here were covered with soft fabric to block sound. Hale closed the door. "I just received word from the palace," he said. "Is it true you proposed to the Queen?" "It was a mistake," Tom said quickly. "I was trying to say I honor her people. I must have used the wrong word or tone. She accepted before I could explain." Hale leaned back, rubbing his forehead. "Do you understand what this means? The Queen's court sees you as her chosen partner. That gives us influence. But it also puts you in danger. Some factions will see you as an ally, others will see you as a problem to remove." "I didn't ask for this," Tom said. "No," Hale replied. "But we cannot undo it without causing damage. For now, we will play along. We will watch and see what the Queen wants from this." Mira entered the room, holding a folded piece of golden fabric. "The palace sent this," she said. "It is the ceremonial sash of an allied consort. They expect you to wear it at tomorrow's gathering." Tom stared at it. "So they are not wasting any time." Mira's voice softened. "Tom, this is not only about the Queen. The Varellans have been under pressure from rival houses for years. If she ties herself to you, she is sending a signal to them and to every other world that she is willing to make bold moves. You are now part of that signal." That night, Tom could not sleep. He stood on the balcony, looking out at the alien city. The streets glowed with floating lanterns. Small ships drifted between tall towers like slow birds. He could hear distant music, soft and strange. His mind was heavy with questions. Why had the Queen accepted so quickly? Did she believe he truly meant it, or had she used his mistake to her advantage? Morning came with a knock at his door. A pair of palace attendants waited outside. Their robes were deep green, their faces calm and unreadable. One of them spoke in the trade language. The Queen invites you to join her for the Festival of Moons this evening. Tom glanced at Mira, who had come to escort him. Festival of Moons, he asked. It is one of their most important events, Mira explained. Leaders from other houses will be there if you attend at her side. Everyone will see your connection as real. By evening, the palace was lit with thousands of soft crystal lights. The main hall had been transformed. Long tables overflow with fruits that glowed faintly in the dim light, dishes that steamed with rich scents, and pitchers filled with liquid that shimmered like liquid silver. Musicians played low, steady rhythms while dancers moved in circles across the polished floor. When Tom entered, wearing the golden ceremonial sash, all eyes turned to him. The Queen stood at the far end of the hall, her gown flowing like water, her crown brighter than before. She smiled as he approached. "Welcome, my chosen ally," she said clearly, so all could hear. Her voice carried pride, not hesitation. Tom bowed slightly, unsure what else to do. He felt the eyes of every guest on him. Whispers moved through the crowd, and he could sense both curiosity and judgment in the air. Throughout the evening, the Queen introduced him to leaders from different houses. Some greeted him warmly, speaking of friendship and trade. Others kept their smiles thin and their words shorter. It was clear to Tom that not everyone approved of this new bond. Near the end of the night, as the music slowed and the guests began to drift toward the outer gardens, the Queen led Tom to a quiet corner. "You speak little tonight," she said. Softly, "I'm still trying to understand all of this," Tom admitted. "I did not mean to make such an offer, but you accepted before I could explain." Her golden eyes held his. "I know, and I also know that you are honest enough to tell me this now. That is rare in this court. There are those who will see your mistake as foolishness. I see it as courage." "Courage?" Tom repeated. To speak in another's tongue before their court, knowing the risk of error, is no small thing, she said. "I accepted because I believe you can stand beside me in times ahead, and those times will not be easy." Tom studied her face. There was no sign she was joking. Whatever game this was, she was playing it with full seriousness. By the time the festival ended and Tom returned to the guest residence, the truth was clear whether he liked it or not. The Queen had made him part of her plans. The morning after the Festival of Moons, the guest residence was filled with the sound of distant bells. They echoed across the silver-blue sky, carrying a slow and steady rhythm. Tom sat at the long dining table, staring at a plate of steaming bread and fruit. He had not eaten much since arriving on Varela, but now he could barely take a bite. Mira entered the room, carrying a stack of thin scrolls. Her dark hair was tied back, and her steps were quick. She placed the scrolls on the table and sat across from him. "You need to understand what has happened," she said without waiting for him to speak. "I know what happened," Tom replied quietly. "I said the wrong thing," she accepted. "Now everyone thinks we are whatever this is." Mira shook her head. "You think it is a simple misunderstanding. It is not." The Queen accepted because in Varelan culture, a binding alliance is more than a personal agreement. It is a declaration that your lives and your nations are joined. It is law. It cannot be undone without severe consequences. Tom leaned back in his chair. "So if I leave, I insult her. If I stay, I become part of their politics." "Yes," Mira said, "and politics here can be dangerous. The Queen has enemies. Some are open in their dislike, others hide behind polite smiles. They will not attack her directly, but they might target you. You are new. You are human. You are an unknown factor. That makes you valuable and threatening at the same time." Tom rubbed his temples. "Why would she want me in the first place? She has advisors, warriors, ambassadors. I'm just a translator." Mira's gaze was steady. "Because you are from Earth. Humans have a reputation among the stars. You adapt quickly. You are unpredictable, and you are not tied to any of the Varelan houses. That means you are outside their games, which makes you harder to control." He thought about her words. "So she is using me as a shield?" Mira did not answer right away. "A shield? A message? Maybe both. To her rivals, she is saying that she will form alliances beyond Varela itself. To her allies, She is showing that she is willing to take risks for the future of her people. Tom glanced at the scrolls she had brought. What are those? They are records, she said. Every binding alliance in the last 3 centuries is written here. Most are between noble houses. A few are between rulers and outsiders. Those few change the course of history. He pulled one scroll closer and unrolled it. The writing was in flowing Varellan script, but Mira translated as he read. 200 years ago, she said, a queen formed a binding alliance with a warrior from another world. That alliance ended a long war, but it also brought decades of internal conflict because the noble houses resented the outsider. Tom frowned. So this could go either way. Mira nodded. Exactly. And if you do not learn quickly how to navigate this culture, it will go badly. Later that day, the queen sent for him. The palace guards escorted Tom through the winding halls, their boots making no sound on the polished floors. He passed tall windows that looked out over the city, where banners with the queen's crest fluttered in the warm breeze. The queen was waiting in a smaller chamber this time. Seated at a low table covered in maps and documents, she gestured for him to sit. I hear you have been speaking with Mira, she said. I have, Tom replied. She explained what this alliance means in your culture. The queen's golden eyes met his. And do you regret it? He hesitated. I did not mean to make the offer, but I understand now why you accepted. She inclined her head slightly. Good. You see, there are forces in this city that would see me weaken. They fear change. They fear looking beyond our own stars. You are a sign that we will not remain isolated. Your enemies might see me as a threat, Tom said. They already do, she replied calmly, which means you must learn how to stand among them without giving them the chance to strike. The conversation shifted as she pointed to the maps. She showed him the trade routes between Varela and other worlds, explaining how each was controlled by different houses. She spoke of resource disputes, old rivalries, and recent unrest. Tom listened carefully, realizing that the queen was giving him a lesson not only in geography but in survival. When he returned to the guest residence that evening, Hale was waiting in the courtyard. The council back on Earth has been informed, the ambassador said. They are cautious but willing to let this play out. They believe this alliance could give us a stronger position in interstellar trade. Tom gave a short laugh without humor. So they want me to keep pretending. Pretending or not, Hale said. You're in it now. Make the most of it. That night, Tom stood again on the balcony, looking over the glowing city. The air was warm and still. He could hear faint music in the distance, and somewhere far below, the voices of merchants closing their stalls. He thought of the queen's words. He thought of Mira's warning. He thought of the nobles at the festival, watching him with sharp eyes. He was no longer just a guest on Varela. He was a piece on the board, and pieces on the board could be moved or removed depending on the game. By the next day, Tom began to feel the weight of his new role. Every move he made was watched. When he walked through the market, merchants offered him rare goods without asking for payment. Children followed him with curious eyes, whispering his name. Guards saluted him in the streets. It might have felt flattering, but there was something sharper beneath it all. The smiles from some nobles were warm, from others they were too thin, as if hiding something. Mira stayed close to him. Whenever possible, she pointed out subtle signals he would have missed. A noble wearing a sash of deep red meant loyalty to House Dren, one of the queen's rivals. A pin in the shape of a silver bird was a sign of neutrality. A robe lined with white meant loyalty to the queen. That afternoon, a formal message arrived from House Dren, requesting a private meeting with Tom. Mira read it twice before speaking. They say it is to welcome you, she said, but you should know that House Dren has opposed the queen for years. If they invite you, they may want to test you, or they may want to see if you can be turned. Tom frowned. And if I refuse, they will think you are under the queen's complete control. Mira said, that will make them more hostile. If you accept, you risk walking into a trap. In the end, Tom agreed to go, but only with Hale and Mira present. The meeting was held in a tall building made of black stone. Inside, the walls were covered in flowing red banners. Lord Dren himself, greeted them. He was tall, with pale silver skin and dark eyes that seemed to study every move. "Welcome, human," Lord Dren said in the trade language. "It is rare for someone from beyond our stars to gain the Queen's favor so quickly. I am curious. About you?" Tom kept his tone polite. "I'm here to help strengthen the ties between our people." Lord Dren's mouth curved into a small smile. "Strengthen ties, yes? But whose ties? Yours to the Queen, or yours to Varela as a whole?" Tom felt the question was more than simple curiosity. He chose his words carefully. The Queen represents Varela. Supporting her means supporting the stability of this world. Lord Dren's eyes narrowed slightly. Some would say she seeks to change too much too quickly. Some would say she risks our traditions for the sake of outsiders. Mira's hand brushed Tom's arm under the table. A silent warning not to be drawn into a direct argument. "I believe," Tom said steadily, "that every world grows stronger when it looks beyond its borders. The Queen is wise enough to see that." Lord Dren studied him for a long moment, then leaned back. "Perhaps you believe that. Or perhaps you simply play your part well. Either way, you are an interesting addition to our court." The meeting ended without open hostility, but Tom left with the feeling that Lord Dren's interest in him was far from harmless. Later that evening, back at the guest residence, Hale spoke in a low voice. "You handled that well. But remember, people like Dren will test you again. They will try to find a weakness, as if to prove the point." A second message arrived that same night, this time from House Vera, a smaller faction allied with the Queen. They invited Tom to attend a private strategy discussion. Mira explained that House Vera was loyal, but not powerful. They may want to use your influence to gain more standing with the Queen. If you agree to help them to openly, the other houses will accuse you of favoritism. Tom sighed. "So no matter what I do, someone will be unhappy. That," Mira said, "is the nature of the court." When Tom attended the House Vera meeting the next day, the atmosphere was different from House Dren's. Lady Vera greeted him warmly and spoke with open admiration for the Queen's decision to form the alliance. She introduced him to her advisors, who asked questions about Earth's technology and trade systems. It felt safer than the previous meeting, but Mira later warned him not to get too comfortable. They are friendly now, but if the balance of power shifts, they will choose whatever side benefits them most. Do not forget that. Over the next week, Tom's schedule was filled with such meetings, ceremonies, and public appearances. Some days he walked beside the Queen in the palace gardens, listening as she spoke of her plans for the future. Other days he faced sharp questions from nobles who seemed determined to find fault. In him, the Queen remained calm through it all. In public, she treated him as an honored partner. In private, she spoke plainly about the challenges ahead. "Your presence changes the game," she told him one evening as they looked out over the city from the palace balcony. "Those who opposed me before now must consider the reaction of your people if they act against me, and those who were undecided may now see me as the stronger choice." Tom nodded slowly. "And if they see me as a threat," her golden eyes held his, "then they will try to remove you. That is why you must not be predictable." Her words stayed with him long after he returned to the guest residence. He was beginning to see how dangerous the court could be. Every smile could hide a knife. Every friendly gesture could be a move in a larger game. One night, as he prepared to rest, Mira brought news. "There are whispers that several houses are forming a coalition against the Queen. They believe her decision to ally with a human is proof that she no longer serves Varela's traditions." Tom's stomach tightened. "And what will they do?" "They will not act openly yet," Mira said. "But they will prepare, and when they do, you will be in the center of it." Tom realized then that his accidental words in the throne room had set into motion events he could not control. The Queen had accepted, and the galaxy was now watching. The large hall of the palace was filled with soft music and the warm scent of flowers. Torn sat at the long table, his eyes wandering over the decorations. Every wall was covered with banners showing the crest of the Queen's line. Tall guards in silver armor stood at each corner, their eyes sharp and their hands resting on their spears. The Queen had invited him to a feast, but Torn could feel something was not simple. The way she had looked at him earlier in the day carried weight. There was no sign of anger. Yet there was a firmness in her gaze that told him something was coming. The table was full of food. Bowls of bright fruits, trays of roasted roots, and plates of soft bread were set in perfect order. A wide golden cup was placed in front of Torin, filled with a drink that smelled sweet and sharp at the same time. The queen herself sat at the head of the table, her posture tall and her eyes calm. She spoke with the elders beside her in a low voice, but Torin could see her glance at him now and then. When the music stopped, the queen stood. Her voice carried through the hall like a clear bell. She spoke about unity between worlds and the need for trust. Then her tone changed. She told the crowd that a leader must prove strength not only with words, but with courage. Her gaze fell on Torin. Tonight, she said, we will have a trial, a simple one. My people believe a ruler's friend must stand without fear. Torin felt his chest tighten. He was not a ruler, but the way she said it made him realize that, in the eyes of her people, he had stepped into a role he did not understand. The queen raised her hand. Two guards brought forward a tall wooden chest. They set it down in the center of the hall. When the lid was lifted, a deep growl filled the air from the chest. They pulled a creature unlike anything Torin had seen. It was chained, but it stood. Taller than him, with black scales and eyes like red glass, gasps filled the hall. Even the elders leaned back in their chairs. The queen spoke again. This is a dust beast. It cannot be tamed, but if you can face it without stepping back, my people will know your spirit is strong. Torin's mind raced. The chains on the beast looked strong, but the creature pulled at them with sharp jerks. He felt the eyes of the entire hall watching him. Refusing would bring shame, not just to him, but to the queen who had accepted his earlier words without hesitation. He stood. His steps echoed on the polished floor as he walked toward the center. The beast's growl deepened. It pulled forward, claws scraping the stone. Torin stopped just a few feet away. The chain stretched between the beast and the guards. Its breath came out in heavy bursts, each one smelling of iron and earth. Torin's heart pounded in his ears, but he locked his gaze on the creature's eyes. He remembered the training drills from years ago on Earth. His commander had always said fear is loud, but courage can be louder if you let it. He steadied his breathing and stayed still. The dust beast lunged forward as far as the chain allowed. The sound of metal straining rang through the hall. Torin did not move. His feet were firm, his hands at his sides. For a moment, the creature paused. It tilted its head, its eyes narrowing. Then it gave a low hiss and pulled back. The chain rattled, but it did not attack again. A wave of whispers filled the room. The queen stood, her eyes fixed on Torin. A small smile touched her lips. She spoke a single word in her language, and the guards led the beast away. Torin turned back to the table. He could feel the change in the air. Where there had been doubt, now there was a quiet respect. The elders watched him closely, as if seeing him for the first time. The queen gestured for him to sit. When he did, she leaned slightly toward him. You have shown them you do not fear, she said in a low voice. That is more valuable than gold in this hall. The feast began again, but the mood had shifted. Cups were lifted higher, laughter returned, and the music grew stronger. Torin ate, though his mind stayed sharp. He had passed one test, but he knew there would be more. Later in the night, when most guests had left, the queen asked him to walk with her in the garden. The moonlight fell across the stone paths, and the sound of running water came from a small fountain nearby. You did well tonight, she said, but you must understand. When I accepted your words earlier, I bound you to a path. My people will expect much from you. This is not only about me and you. It is about worlds. Torin met her gaze. I did not plan for this, he admitted, but I will not turn away from it. She studied him for a moment, then nodded. Good, because the next step will test not only your courage, but your loyalty. I will call on you soon. Her tone held both trust and warning. Torin felt the weight of her words settle on his shoulders. He had stepped into something far greater than a misunderstanding, and now it was shaping into a bond that could change both their worlds. They returned to the hall. Where the last of the servants were clearing the tables, the queen left him with a final look before disappearing through a side door. Torrance stood alone for a moment, letting the night air drift in from the garden. He had no idea what the next challenge would be, but one thing was certain: there was no turning back now. The great hall was silent when Aaron stepped forward. The light from the crystal pillars reflected across the floor like ripples on water. Every alien noble in the room was watching him with sharp eyes. The queen sat on her high throne, her gaze calm but unreadable. The guards stood ready at her side, their armor shining like silver in the bright hall. Aaron felt his heartbeat rise, but he did not let it show. He had spoken to her before many times now, but today felt different. This was no private moment in the gardens or quiet conversation at night. This was before the entire court, and whatever happened here would spread across the palace by the next sunrise. He had to choose his words carefully. The queen's voice broke the silence. Aaron, the council has spoken. They doubt your place here. They say a human cannot take part in the matters of the crown. They believe you are an outsider who does not understand our world. What do you say to them? Her tone was not harsh, but it was direct. Aaron stepped closer. Your Majesty, they are right that I am not from your world. I do not know all your customs, but I know loyalty. I know what it means to stand with someone when danger is near, and I know I will not turn away from you or your people. A murmur moved through the hall. Some nobles looked annoyed, others curious. The queen studied him with a steady gaze. And if standing with me means facing enemies beyond your strength, Theron's answer was clear. Then I will face them, not because I am certain of victory, but because it is the right thing to do. The queen leaned back slightly, as if weighing his words. The chamber remained tense. A noble from the left side stepped forward. He was tall, dressed in layers of deep green silk, and his voice was sharp. Your Majesty, these are noble words, but words are air. Let the human prove himself in action before we accept him in our matters. The queen's eyes narrowed. And what would you suggest? The noble smiled faintly. There's the matter of the broken signal tower in the north. It lies deep in the wild lands where the night creatures roam. None have gone there for months. Let the human repair it and return. If he does, then he has earned his place here. A wave of approval moved through the nobles. Aaron could tell they were hoping he would fail. He looked at the queen, waiting for her decision. She was silent for a moment. Then she stood. Very well, Aaron will go to the northern tower, but he will not go alone. I will send one of my own with him to see that he is given fair chance. The hall stirred again. The queen turned her head slightly and gestured. A tall woman stepped from the side entrance. She wore light armor made of layered scales and carried a long spear. Her dark eyes studied Aaron carefully. The queen spoke her name. This is Solara. She will guide you. Aaron gave a small nod to Solara, but her expression stayed cold. The queen looked at him again. You leave at dawn. The journey will be long, and the wild lands are dangerous, but I believe you can do this. Her words were calm, but Aaron felt the weight behind them. She was giving him a chance, and at the same time, testing his worth. When the hall was dismissed, Aaron walked toward the gates with Solara following behind. Her steps were quiet, but her presence was sharp like a drawn blade. After some silence, she spoke. I will not slow my pace. For you, human, keep up or be left behind. Aaron gave a short smile. Then I'll just have to keep up. That night, he prepared his pack with the little gear he had. The queen's steward delivered a rolled map and a sealed case of supplies. When Aaron opened the map, he saw the route marked in red ink. It wound through deep valleys, across a broken bridge, and into a dark forest before reaching the tower. Before leaving, Aaron looked once more at the palace lights from the balcony of his small chamber. Somewhere inside, the queen was still awake, likely in discussion with her advisors. He wondered if she was thinking about him now, or if this task was just another step in her long list of duties. At dawn, the gates opened. The cool morning air carried the scent of the sea. Solara was already waiting, her spear across her back. She handed him a short blade. For when the night creatures come, she said simply, They began their journey through rolling hills, the sun slowly rising. Behind them, the road turned from smooth stone to rough dirt, and soon the land became wild and untamed. Strange bird calls echoed in the distance. By midday, they reached a small stream. As Aaron filled his water skin, Solara spoke again. "Tell me something. Human, why would you risk yourself for our queen?" He looked up from the water. "Because she gave me trust when she didn't have to. Where I come from, that is worth protecting." Solara studied him for a moment, then said nothing more. That evening, they set camp in a small hollow surrounded by thick bushes. The fire crackled softly, and the wind moved through the leaves like a whisper. Aaron lay back, staring at the stars. They looked different here, sharper, brighter. Somewhere in the distance, he heard a low, rumbling howl. Solara was already watching the darkness. "Sleep lightly," she said. "Night creatures do not wait for morning." Aaron nodded. He closed his eyes, knowing tomorrow would take them deeper into danger. But inside, he felt a strange sense of determination. He was not just doing this for himself now. He was doing it for the queen who had chosen to believe in him. And no matter what waited ahead, he intended to return. The grand hall of the palace was silent. Only the faint sound of the large banners moving with the wind could be heard. The queen sat on her high throne, her eyes watching the man who now stood in the center. Her court was gathered around, but every person seemed to be holding their breath. David had been through battles, trials, and endless confusion since the day he had stepped foot on this world. At first, it had all felt like an accident, one wrong word, one strange custom. And suddenly the queen had accepted what she thought was a formal proposal. That misunderstanding had led to days of political storms, alliances, and dangerous enemies. Now it had all come down to this moment. The queen's guard stood ready, tall and still as statues. Ministers and advisors whispered quietly among themselves. The light from the tall windows fell on David, making him seem like the only person who mattered in the room. He could feel the weight of the decision pressing on him. The queen's voice was calm yet carried the power of command. "David, the time for wandering is over. You have seen our world. You have fought for our people. But I need an answer today. Will you stay by my side as my chosen one? Or will you return to the stars and lead this world to its fate?" The question was not simple. It was not just about staying or leaving. He had seen the dangers this kingdom faced. Rival nations, internal plots, and the strange shadow of something far older than either of them. If he stayed, he would be part of all of it. If he left, he knew she would face it alone. David's mind went back to the moment when it had all begun. He remembered the shocked silence after his accidental words, the sudden warmth in the queen's eyes, and the firm acceptance she had given without hesitation. Since then, every trial had made him understand her more. Her strength, her pride, her hidden loneliness. The queen's chief advisor, a tall figure in silver robes, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, perhaps he should consider the risk. The human may have fought well, but his presence has also brought trouble. Enemies will seek him out." The queen raised her hand, silencing the advisor. "He has also brought victories. He has brought courage to my people. I will hear his answer, not yours." David looked around the hall. He saw faces, some hopeful, some doubtful, some openly hostile. The nobles of the court were split in their opinions. Many feared change, and his presence meant change in every way. He took a slow breath and spoke so that all could hear. "When I first arrived here, I did not understand your ways. I made mistakes. I spoke without knowing the meaning. But in the days that followed, I learned. I learned that your people are worth fighting for. I learned that your enemies are real. And I learned that you, my queen, are not just a ruler to be served. You are someone who carries the burden of an entire world." The queen's gaze softened, though her face remained regal. David continued, "If I leave now, it will not be because I fear danger. I have faced it already. If I leave now, it will be because I do not believe I belong here. But the truth is, I do belong here. This world has claimed me, and I cannot turn away." There was a stir among the court. Some gasped quietly. Others exchanged uneasy looks. The queen stood, Her presence seemed to fill the hall even more than before. She stepped down from the throne and walked toward him. The sound of her boots echoed on the stone floor when she stopped in front of him. Her voice was low but carried to every corner of the room. "Then stand with me not as a stranger, not as an outsider, but as one of my own. You will have my trust, my protection, and my command." David bowed his head. "I accept." The queen turned to the court. "From this day, David will hold the rank of royal guardian and stand as my chosen protector. Any who oppose this will speak now or hold their peace forever." There was a heavy silence. No one spoke. The court had been given the chance to object, but no one dared challenge her in this moment. The queen's eyes met his again, and for a brief instant, the formality in her gaze faded, replaced by something more personal. "You have chosen a hard path, David. I will not promise it will be easy, but I promise you will never walk it alone." From that day forward, his life was tied to hers. He trained with her guards, studied the politics of the realm, and took part in council meetings. Whenever a threat rose, they faced it together. In the months that followed, word spread through the kingdom about the human who had become the queen's closest ally. Some called him a hero, some called him a dangerous foreigner, but none could deny that battles were won and peace was kept while he stood at her side. There were nights when the queen would stand on the high balcony, looking over the city lights, and David would join her. They spoke of the future, not just of the kingdom, but of the people and of the hope that perhaps, together, they could guide this world into a new age. The accident that had started it all no longer mattered. What mattered was the choice he had made and the trust she had placed in him and deep in his heart. David knew that if he had to choose again, he would make the same choice every time.